This is Gordon Rosenberg with a demonstration of all the hand positions often used when giving Reiki to another person. I am a Reiki practitioner and teacher. I first learned Reiki in 1989 and have done thousands of local and distant sessions, and I've taught Reiki to many students in person and online. I hope you can practice these positions with someone after you watch the video. My client is Debbie Rosenberg, and music is supplied by Magnatune.com.
Your hands need not actually make contact with the body for the energy to flow through. It's an important rule of all Reiki work that energy flows where the mind goes. So as you focus on sending the energy through, possibly to a certain part of the person's body you're working with, especially if they've told you they have an injury or condition that they're working on, you might focus on sending the energy to that place. And it's also fine if you simply want to relax and stay out of the way and let the energy go where it wants to go, and simply trust that the Reiki energy will go there. You may choose to put a cushion under the person's knees. It's not very comfortable for many of us to have our knees lying down flat, so a cushion underneath so they're at a little bit of an angle can be more comfortable. If the person's lying on their front, putting a cushion under their lower legs and ankles. So let's start now with some of the suggested hand positions for the front and back of the body both. Position 1 that's often suggested is to start sitting at the person's head with your hands comfortably cupped over their eyes. Make sure that your hands are not touching their eyelids. I've received sessions before where someone may not know quite what they're doing and will put their hands right on the eyes, and it's good to tell them not to do that because it's not so comfortable. You may notice your client beginning to relax more immediately as you begin to send the energy, and just let them receive it however they do and let the energy flow through your hands. The eyes in particular can be a very powerful place to receive energy. The second position in many charts is to work with your hand at each side of the head, over the ears potentially. Sometimes you can work in front of the ears, just with your hands sending energy into the side of the head, helping the mind to relax. To work on this position beneath the head, it's nice if you can gently move the person's head from one way to the other as you slide your hand under. More challenging if they have long hair, I've discovered, but you can slip your hand under and then just gently turn their head one way to get your hand underneath a little bit. And you might move it back and forth 2 or 3 times in order to get your hands underneath. I find this is a particularly rewarding position to give Reiki. There's just something really special about holding the person's head that way, knowing that you're cradling their head in your hands. This is also another position used in certain Reiki techniques for sending energy down through their body. When you're holding that position, just imagine that the energy is going down through, all the way through their body. You may see the energy flowing through certain areas. Depending on how clairvoyant you are, you may actually see places in the body where the energy's getting stuck, or it's blocking, or it's working in a certain part. And you can maybe help that energy flow by imagining that you're seeing it flowing down through that area, and eventually all the way down to the feet, releasing out through the feet. And you can try the throat position next. And again, it's important not to hold your hands tight on the person's throat. That's not comfortable for anyone. Many of us have real strong issues around our throats for one reason or another. Reiki will work on those issues, and if you hold tight on that, you're certainly not going to be very comforting for the receiver. So just cup your hands around over the throat. In conjunction with this, you may also hold the lower jaw. You can combine these positions, moving from one to the other, and just allowing the energy to flow into that whole area. Another variance on this you might see in some of the charts is one hand over the throat and another hand down over the sternum bone above the heart. Another optional position you may explore at this point is to have one hand behind the head at the base of the skull in the medulla area. That's the hollow, literally at the base of the skull. And the other hand over the person's third eye, center of the forehead. I'm intentionally not numbering these positions. You may see numbers on different hand position charts, and those numbers will vary from one chart to another. Because there's so many nice optional positions, I choose not to attach numbers to them. Just let you do them in the order they feel appropriate. I will simply cover all the basic positions here so you can practice each of them. Next, you might explore a position with your hands over each collarbone. Hold one hand on each side of the part of the shoulders and allow your hands to cup over the hollow area above the collarbone. Another area where many of us store a lot of energy, and it's good to help that energy release from there, of course. And then if you choose to, you may reach down from above the head to the lower position here over the heart, over the center of the heart, the sternum. And so to allow the energy to flow into the heart. You can also work the heart from the back as well as from the side. In fact, some say the energy flows directly into the heart from the back, better than from the front. Then you can move down the body at the upper stomach region from one side, either side, with your hands. Good position there, as you may see in some of the charts, has the fingertips of one hand touching the palm of the next hand, with your hands reaching clear across the body. Going to attach a particular position to this, simply where you know your hands need to go. And of course the body has organs through all those areas, so you're working on all those organs as you work your way down. You may have finished that progression by having your one hand on each hip from one side or the other of the body. Allow your hands to cover the front of the hip bones. And you can work your way all the way down the legs in the same way from the hips, working to the knees. You may choose to have a connection with one hand on hip, one hand on knee. I often find I do that in a complete session. You may find you want to have one hand on the hip, one hand on the ankle. You may have one hand on the knee, one hand on the ankle. Both hands on the knees. Of course, many of us have knee problems, and they can use a lot of Reiki. You might have one hand on each side of the knee. You might slip one hand gently under the knee and have one hand on top. Just explore the different ways of working with it, seeing what's the most comfortable and what feels like the client wants you to do. And in particular, if a client has told you they've had knee injuries or surgery, that's a good place to do a lot of energy work. Simply be gentle with the area and allow the energy to do the work. When you work your way all the way down to the ankles, you may have one hand on each side of the ankle too. You may have one on the front, one on the back. And And then on the foot itself, you can have one underneath, one on top, or one hand on each side. Down one leg, and then do the other leg. Then you may find you want to have one hand on each knee and on each ankle. This is good for balancing the energy from the right to left sides of the body. And you may get to the other end of the table and find you want to sit down for a long time, even sometimes with one hand on each foot. Simply allowing the energy to flow down through the person's body, out through the feet. You may be familiar with foot reflexology. When you do Reiki on the foot, it's a similar experience in that you're working with all those energy points, allowing the energy to flow through the feet and work with all the different parts of the body related to each reflexology point. I've done whole sessions sitting at a person's feet, if that's what feels needed. And then when you have the person turn over so you can work on their back, and then you can start from up above the head with your hands on each shoulder. It's a better way of getting to the shoulders sometimes if you can't do it while they're lying on their back. Working down to where your fingers are touching, fingers of one hand touching the palm of the other hand, so you can work clear across the body. Working down through the major points in the back. We all carry a lot of tension in the back. And as you get down to when you're working on the middle back, you're working on the heart area, and as you work your way down from there, you're hitting all the other organs in the torso. And you get down to near the lower back. On the top of the kidneys is the adrenal glands, major stress factor areas for us. Nearly all of us need work on our adrenal glands for one reason or another. So you may notice a lot of energy flowing through there. Of course, as you move down a little, you're working on the kidneys. You can work clear down to the hip bones, back to the pelvis area. And you can work all the way down the legs too, and work the back of the knees and the ankles. You may conclude a session by sitting at the person's feet with one hand on the sole of each foot. And when you do this, you might choose to imagine bringing energy down through, as if you're helping the person clear energy all the way down through the body. When you start a session at the head and finish at the foot, you're naturally bringing energy in, bringing it down through the body and releasing it out through the feet. There are times when I do a session I'll start at the feet and work to the head. It's really a very intuitive process. It just depends on what feels like the client's body wants to experience and what they need to have happen. And again, there's no one right way to do any form of Reiki. The more you develop your intuition, the more you experience doing Reiki, the more you feel in your own body, the more you'll know what to do in any given time. Simply allow your intuition to guide you there. So this concludes a quick trip through treating another person with Reiki energy.
Now you can give Reiki a try yourself, or if you already do it and have been watching to learn how to do it even better. If you haven't yet studied with a conscientious Reiki teacher, I recommend you locate one in your area. Reiki is a wonderful way to share loving, healing energy with another person.